Hey ladies and gentlemen, this is Miss Humbert here and we're going to be doing Unit 8 Notes 1. So we're going to be talking about areas of parallelograms and triangles. So let's start by taking a look at parallelograms. So when we talk about parallelograms, the area of a parallelogram is going to be the base times the height. Well, what is the base and what is the height? The base is this length right here. So this is the base and also this is the base, because remember, in a parallelogram, your opposite sides are going to be congruent. Okay, so the height is going to intersect the base at a right angle. So this right here is the height. So it goes from the bottom base to the top base. But likewise, this distance way over here could also be considered the height. If we were to extend that base out, it would be a right angle. So that line right there could also be the height, because sometimes you're given that distance. Both of those can represent the height. Now let's take a look at how we would calculate out these areas. So for the first one, it says find the perimeter in the area of each parallelogram. Well, let's start by finding the perimeter. We know in parallelograms that opposite sides are congruent. So that's going to be 10 inches and that's going to be 4 inches. So to calculate out the perimeter, what we're going to do is we are going to do add all of our sides. So we're going to take 4 plus 10 plus 4 plus 10. And when you add all of that together, you end up getting 28, and then the label is just going to be inches. So we just take the same label as our sides when we're doing the perimeter. Now, to calculate out the area is going to be, remember, base times height. Well, our base is our base is 10, because our base is our longer side. So this right here represents our base and this right here represents our base because it's the longer side. So we're going to take our base times our height. So we're just going to do 10 times 5, and that's going to give us 50. Now, when we label area, we need to take our label and we need to square it. So when we're talking about our area, it's actually going to be 50 inches squared. Okay? So let's take a look at letter B. So for letter B, we want to find the perimeter and the area of each. So first of all, to calculate out the perimeter, we know that this whole length here is 21. We know that this length here is 17. So now we can go ahead and add around. So 21 plus 17 plus 21 plus 17, that's going to give us 76 centimeters for the perimeter. Now we want to calculate out the area. Well, we know our base is 21. However, we don't know our height. But what we do know is that that is a right triangle. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem to get our height. So this is 8, this is x, and this is 17. So our height is our unknown. So remember that your hypotenuse sits across from the right angle. So we have x squared plus 8 squared is going to be equal to 17 squared, because remember that x is our leg. So when we solve that out, I'm going to assume now that you guys are comfortable with the Pythagorean theorem. Really, it's just going to be x squared is equal to 17 squared minus 8 squared. And you end up getting here that x is equal to 15. So my height then is equal to 15. So then my area is going to be my base times my height. So 21 times 15, which is 315, and then we're going to write that as centimeters squared. Remember that area then is always squared. Now let's take a look at letter C. So for letter C, we know the height is going to be 24. Okay, so then we want to go ahead, and right now it's easy for us to figure out the area because we know the height and we know the base. What we don't know is this side length. So let's start with the area because we have all the information we need for that. So for the area, it's just going to be 23 times 24. And when you multiply that out, you end up getting 552, and that's going to be feet squared. Now, again, in order for us to get that other side, this side right here, we're going to have to use the Pythagorean theorem. So we have a leg of 7, a leg of 24, and then our hypotenuse is going to be x. So we need to figure out then what our hypotenuse is so we can get that other side. So I have 7 squared plus 24 squared is equal to x squared. So then you can go ahead and solve that for x. Again, I'm assuming this is something you're comfortable with at this point. So then what you end up getting is that this side is 25. So that means that this side is also 25, and this one's 23, because remember, opposite sides need to be congruent. So then we can go through and to calculate the perimeter, add up all of those values, and you end up getting 96 feet for those values. Let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, it says to find the area of each parallelogram, and we may have to use special rectangles, or we can use trigonometry. Let's use that. So here I see that I have 45, okay? And I know that this length right here is 9 because opposite sides need to be congruent. And I'm trying to find the area, so I have to know this height. Well, since I know this is a 45-degree angle, I know the hypotenuse, and I want to know the adjacent. So remember SOHCAHTOA. That's something we use a lot in Unit 6. So I noticed that sine applies to opposite over hypotenuse. So I can go ahead and set that up using trigonometry. So sine of 45 is going to be equal to opposite, which is h, over hypotenuse. So in order for us to get that 9 over to the other side, our height is going to be equal to 9 times sine of 45, because we need to multiply both sides by 9 to get that over to the other side. So 9 sine of 45. Well, when you multiply all of that out, you end up getting 6.4. And so that is your height. Your height is 6.4. And it doesn't give us any units. So now to get the area, we're going to do our base, which is 12, times our height, which is 6.4. When you multiply those together, you end up getting 76.8 as your height, as your area for letter A. Let's take a look at letter B. So for letter B, we want to figure out what this is going to be. So we need to figure out the height again. So I see that I want to know the adjacent to the angle I know, and I know the opposite. So that means I need to use tangent, because tangent is opposite over adjacent. So tangent of 30 is equal to opposite over adjacent. So again, to solve for x, I'm going to have to multiply both sides by 12. So x is equal to 12. Oops, I flipped it around. Sorry, that was my fault. Shoop. Okay, so it actually should be opposite, which is 12, because 12 is opposite our angle over x. So remember that trick I taught you, that when x is on the bottom, you just flip-flop them. So you end up getting that x is equal to 12 divided by tangent of 30. Again, you can just plug that into your calculator, and you end up getting that your height is equal to 20.78. So then you can plug that into your calculator when you multiply them. So we're going to take our base, which is 32, times our height, which is 20.78, and that's going to be 665.1. And then it's going to be in meters squared. Remember, our area is always squared because that was the label originally given to us. Okay, let's go ahead and let's take a look at the area of a triangle. So to calculate out the area of a triangle, you're going to use area is equal to base times height divided by 2, or area is equal to 1/2 your base times your height. So this side right here is going to be my base, this long side. Okay, and then my height, again, is this kind of dotted altitude of the triangle is going to be my height. So let's go ahead and let's put this to use. So let's take a look at 3A. Find the perimeter and area of each triangle. So we're looking at this triangle right here. So it actually gives us that the height is 30 inches. So that's going to be good when we get to area. So for the perimeter, I need to calculate out this length right here that I'm going to call x. So I notice this part right here forms a right triangle. So I have legs of 27 and legs of 30, and that's going to be equal to x squared. So 27 squared plus 30 squared is going to be equal to my hypotenuse squared. Again, I'm going to assume that you can solve these at that point. If you can't, go ahead and bring it up to me and we'll talk about it together. So that's extra side length is 40.4. So then what we're going to do is we are going to add around. So this right here is 40.4 plus 19 plus 41. So when you add all of those together, you end up getting 100.4 inches for your perimeter. And then we want to calculate out the area. Well, the base of our triangle is going to be 41 inches. So our base is 41. And then we're going to multiply it times the height, which is 30. So we're going to take 41 times 30, and that's going to be equal to 1,230 inches squared. All right, so let's go ahead and let's take a look at 3B. So for this one, to calculate out the perimeter, we're going to have to get a couple of sides. So first of all, I know that this is a right triangle, so I can use that to get that side. So that x is actually a leg. So 6 squared plus x squared is going to be equal to 13 squared. Again, I'm hoping at this point you're comfortable doing the Pythagorean theorem on your own. And when you do that, you end up getting that x is equal to 11.53. So the height of our triangle is 11.53 centimeters. Now we need to use that to get this side right here. So to do that, we're going to call this side y maybe. So we're going to have 11.53 squared plus 29 squared is equal to 13 squared. Or y squared, I'm sorry, because that's our hypotenuse. Again, I'm going to hope that you can solve this for y on your own. So then you end up getting that y is equal to 31.20. So then this y up here, come on, is 31.20. So now we can get the perimeter because we can add this, this, and this to get our perimeter. And when you add those up, you end up getting that the perimeter is 71.7 centimeters. Now, let's take a look and find our area. So we need to find our base. Your base is always going to be at a right angle with the height. So if you notice right here, this is what's at the right angle with the height. So that makes 29 centimeters the base because it's at a right angle with the height. So our base is 29. Our height is 11.53. And then we want to divide that by 2. So we're going to multiply that out and then divide it by 2. And when you do that, you get 167.19 centimeters squared. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I'm going to continue this on part 2 of this video. So you're going to go ahead and move to part 2 now.